Well, as the leader of Oxfam, my job is to support Oxfam to tackle poverty and injustice around the world. And we see well-being as an amazingly powerful way of focusing on this, because well-being is about the quality of life of people, and the quality of the life is a link between many different elements. That includes, of course, their income, their health, their education, their opportunities. And we're seeing many people in the world who are missing out on this, and we think we can be making choices as a society, both in the UK and globally, that will promote the well-being of far more people than we're doing at the moment. If we're to promote the well-being of the poorest group of people in the world, the billion people who are extremely poor at the moment, the first thing is to look at their needs and their interests, and as we design every activity in our economy and our society, think, how are we going to make sure they're included? In other words, we can't look at averages, we can't look at totals, we have to look at the impact on the poorest. And if the poorest are not benefiting disproportionately, in other words, if they're not catching up, we're missing the point and we need to start again. You then break that down into a whole range of different activities, from tax systems, through to the way public services are spent, through to issues of minimum wage, to promotion of employment, and to social security and social safety nets. So there are many elements of doing that, but the real issue is to look at why the poor are missing out and what are we going to do to make sure not just that they get some benefit, but that they get a disproportionately high benefit. That's the way in which we'll tackle poverty, injustice and well-being most effectively. What Oxfam is seeing is that as the world does earn more, is more wealthy, inequality is rising. And extreme inequality is rising in a way that concentrates power, concentrates benefit in the few. So poorer people are missing out. In countries which are getting wealthier, there may be, and there are indeed in many African and Asian countries, more poor people, because we're looking at total wealth rather than collective prosperity. I've seen it in Zambia, now a middle-income country, but more poor people than when it was a poor country. We see it in Pakistan, we see it in Nigeria, we see it indeed in our own country, in the UK. And that's because we're not looking at general well-being, we're looking at total. I don't think this is just about government spending money on the poor. I think it's a way of looking at our economy, looking at our tax system, looking at who we spend on. In Bangladesh is not spending much more than Pakistan or India on health or education services, but by the combination of the government and the non-government organisations focusing benefit on the poorest people are getting a share of that benefit. So to me, the crucial issue is the lens we look through, not how much we actually spend as a nation. Oxfam's primary focus is on the poorest people in the world, but the issues we're raising about growing extreme inequality, holding back collective prosperity, are just as true in the developed world as in the developing world. So in America, since the recession, economic gains have been primarily enjoyed by 1% of the population. 90% of those economic gains, and 90% of the population are actually worse off than they were before the recession. And so we have to look at the world as one. We all have to play our part in that, whether that's paying our taxes or supporting international causes. But more fundamentally, it's about the policies and programs we design, the governments we elect, and the kind of society that we all want to live in.